And I think the big thing about clusters is we're here to help fill in the gaps for you.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Kenny J, the insurance guru, and this is Kenny J TV. Guys, welcome to another episode of Kenny J TV. If this is your first time, feel free to browse around and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for my latest notification. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back to Kenny J TV. Today we have a special interview with Mike. He is the territory manager of the cluster that I am a part of. I believe he can bring a lot of value to this channel, and a lot of you guys do reach out about clusters and how to get appointments. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit today. So I appreciate you for being here today, Mike. How's your day going so far?
Good, man. No, I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited.
I love it. I love it. So we're just going to start out with something simple. Can you tell us a little bit about like your background and how you became a territory manager of an insurance cluster?
Yeah, perfect. So, a little bit of my background, I went to Chapel Hill for environmental sciences, right? And that's kind of what we see in a lot of the insurance world is maybe you didn't go to school for insurance, right? But you kind of ended up here. So, I was kind of doing like odd jobs around Raleigh for a while when I graduated college, and then I went into dental insurance actually in South Florida. I knew a connection down there. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan. I didn't like it, but I kind of transitioned from dental insurance to regular insurance. And then I've been a territory manager for about 3 years on top of that. So,
Gotcha. And then what does your day-to-day role look like as a territory manager?
yeah, good question. So, I've got about 100 agencies that I represent. We've got about 500 agencies total in North Carolina that we represent, and there's about 4 or 5 different territory managers in North Carolina. But yeah, my day to day is essentially going to see agents, taking phone calls, staying on my emails and stuff like that. I would say that the two biggest things are going to see agents to develop a relationship with them, right? And then also helping agents maybe place business. So a lot of times they'll call me and they might have something that they don't know where to put it, or they've never worked with this type of risk before. And a lot of my job is kind of pointing them in the right direction, whether it be, go to a different department or go to a different carrier, just stuff like that.
I gotcha. And then how long have you been in the industry?
About 6 years, I would say now.
Okay. And then how has it like evolved since you first got into the industry to now?
Man, it's evolved a lot actually, and you've probably seen a lot of this too, right? So I would say the biggest thing for me is, when I first started, we were kind of in the golden age of what I would say was insurance, where like, homeowners was really easy to write, codes were really easy to get. And, over the last, I would say 2 or 3 years, that has kind of flipped upside down, right? So kind of the evolution I've seen is people are diversifying like crazy now, and they're trying to, find different avenues to write. So whether that be commercial insurance, I've got agents that do life insurance, so I would say diversity is kind of the name of the game now, just because homeowners has been tougher to write, no matter if you're a big agency or a small agency, it's been tough the last couple of years. So
And I'm honestly grateful that the market did what it did because it did allow me to diversify and I was able to like go into more commercial insurance and then life insurance especially. And that
yeah,
definitely helped me like increase my revenue and just, offer my existing book life insurance. You know what I mean? So many
yeah,
times people don't even talk about life insurance or ask, the people about life insurance because they're scared they're going to say no. But
yeah,
this is like a rejection game. People are going to say no, but we
for
have to do
sure.
our due diligence to at least offer the product.
I feel like if you can sell life insurance too, you can sell everything else. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So if you
absolutely.
can get some yeses there, you're good to go.
Absolutely. And then I don't want to name the cluster, but what sets this one apart from other ones in the insurance industry? If you have like experienced other ones or heard of other
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. I mean, there's three big things that we do that I think we do better than everyone else, right? The
Mhm.
first one is we're not exclusive, meaning that, you could use us for as little or as much as you'd like to, right? I have bigger agencies that might use us for one of our programs, or they might use us for one market. And then I have smaller agencies that might use us for everything, right? And we get them access to as much as we can immediately. The other big thing is we have what's called a commission cap. And I won't go too far into it, but you can essentially earn X number of dollars, and then you make 100% commission on everything that you write. The other big thing is there's no monthly fee with us, and there's no sign up fee with us, right?
Mhm.
So we operate purely on a commission split basis. So I have agencies that might sign up with us. and not write anything for 6 months and doesn't cost them a dime out of their pocket, right? So that's really great.
I love that. And then what are some common challenges that agents face, and how does the cluster help them overcome these?
Okay. So, especially as of late, right? I think the big thing for us at my company is we really, really don't want any business walking out of your door, right? So, if you have access to anything, we want to be able to help you write it, whether it be, an axe throwing spot or, maybe like a bull riding ring, just crazy examples, right? But if you have access to it and you have a client that needs it, we want to be able to help you to write it. So, the big thing for us is don't say no to anybody. Let us help you figure everything out. We have tons of access to different brokers and specialty markets and stuff like that. But then to kind of touch on our previous point, we've got tons of commercial markets too, high value homes. It's really just about being able to service every single client that you have walk in your door or you get access to, right?
Yeah. And that's definitely the beauty of being on the independent side because I started with State Farm and it was so
Mhm.
much business that we had to send out the door, send to independent brokers. And people always ask me, like, I'm scared to go independent because I'm not going to have training. But I always tell them you have like territory managers, you have underwriters, you have a lot of people that you're not really alone, in the
Oh,
process that
yeah.
you can always reach out to.
I think the other big thing is like a lot of the carriers that we work with, right? They do a good job of training you specifically. Like if they're going to give you a code and give you access, that typically comes with the training program, right? Where they want to make sure that you're comfortable getting to the website. They want to make sure that you're comfortable underwriting and all that stuff. But then, I think a lot of other things that come with that is like once you've done it with one website, typically it's a lot of the same stuff, right? Where the process is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but if you've gotten through a couple different websites, you'll get through the rest. So,
No, absolutely. And then what advice would you give someone new to the insurance business? Like
that's a
they're
good
day one
question.
into it.
I would say that the two big things for me, right, is be ambitious, right? So a lot of the agencies that I work with that do really well, they're not afraid to ask for referrals and they're
Mhm.
not afraid to, maybe walk into a business, right? I've got an example. Like I've got an agency and they do really great with me, right? But they're in a shopping center. And I'll walk in there and I'll be like, "Hey, are you guys writing, X business across the street or the burger shop across the street, right?" And they'll be like, "Well, no, we just never thought of it." And it's like, "Well, if they're your neighbors, walk
Yeah.
in, like introduce yourself." I think, people prefer to have an insurance agency just that they could walk into next door anyway. So I would say the big thing is, don't be afraid to call people that you know that might need insurance, and don't be afraid to walk into a place, and introduce yourself. And that relationship might not foster immediately, but it might foster 6 months down the road or a year down the road. And a lot of my job is walking into agencies that don't know me and introducing myself and then developing that relationship along the way.
Okay. And then to piggyback off of that question, because you were saying to be ambitious, like
Mhm.
what qualities do you think make for a successful agent in like the cluster or agent that you manage?
I would say a good agent is a good networker for sure.
Absolutely.
Someone like yourself, right? Where you're not afraid to make connections and you're not afraid to talk to different people and kind of get people's different opinions. I would say, going to different events for insurance stuff is great. Not being afraid to talk to other agencies that might be in your town or your city and not really viewing them as competition, more viewing them as like I can learn from this agency if they're bigger than me. I would say that's a big thing, yeah.
And it's nice to interview different people in the insurance industry that aren't just agents because you guys all say like what I say in the videos. Like networking is so important. I've gained some huge clients and opportunities from just networking. People
Yeah.
think they can just open their doors and just say, all right, we're open for business and people are going to come in, but that is not how it works in the insurance.
I think you'd be surprised too at like a lot of the older guys in insurance that do really well and they might have the huge
Yeah.
shops. They're much more open to helping younger agents than you think they would be, right? I think a
Absolutely.
lot of these guys, especially on the way out, they love kind of, giving you wisdom and kind of giving you their thoughts on the market. And they know a lot too. Like the guys and the women that have been in insurance for 30 years, they're a wealth of knowledge. So I always try to pick their brains whenever I get a second to do that. So.
No, absolutely. And then what do you enjoy most about your role as a territory manager?
So I get to meet a lot of different people, man, and it's people from all different walks of life and backgrounds. So that's really cool. I have, everyone you could think of kind of under my umbrella. The other cool part is I love North Carolina, right? So I grew up here, but I get to travel a lot to the cool places in North Carolina. So
Mm.
you know, a lot of my job is like going to the beach one day, you know, and of course I'm working, but I get to kind of see Eastern North Carolina and do some cool road trips and stuff. But I would say, you know, just meeting different people and getting to go to different cool spots, get cool food and stuff like that.
And then were you in sales? You said you were in dental insurance, but did you ever do like PNC, like life health besides dental insurance?
No. So in dental insurance, essentially what I did is I worked with the dentist that our company worked with, and then we helped them
Mhm.
get what's called credentialed with different carriers, essentially. So it's
Gotcha.
essentially like getting them a code in insurance to write. I worked with them to do that.
So you always kind of been doing the same thing within insurance, sounds like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Okay.
much.
Cool. And then what's one piece of advice that you received in your career that has stuck with you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think the big thing, it kind of ties back to what I said earlier, right? Is the hardest part about my job, I would say, is walking into an agency and being able to connect with somebody, right? Whether that is, you know, I get a lot of people that tell me to leave immediately, you know, and you kind of take that on the chin. And I think that applies to insurance agents as well, is, you know, you're gonna get rejected a lot. And I don't think the big thing is don't take that personally, right? Like I have a boss, his name is Chris, and he's kind of one of my mentors. And he's been fantastic at kind of imparting that wisdom upon me is like, you know, insurance is going to come with a lot of ups and downs, right? And you're going to have good days and bad days. I think the guys and the women that do great in this field are the ones that don't get deterred by having a bad day or having a bad week or losing a big account. You know what I mean? Like perseverance is key. And the more time you do something like this, the better off you're going to be as long as you're growing a little bit every year, you know?
Absolutely. And then I think Chris was my original territory manager before he got.
Probably, yeah. So
Yeah.
he's the state director now for
Yeah,
our
yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah.
He's
So he was my
fantastic.
original.
Like really, without him, I don't know if I'd be where I am today. So shout out to Chris. He's great.
No, I love it. And then how long have you been with this cluster as a territory?
About 6 years.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then what's one piece of advice that you would give to an insurance agent looking to take their agency to the next level? So they're in insurance, they're doing okay, but they want like an extra boost to get to that next level.
Yeah, good question. So one of the things I always ask my agencies, right, when I get in and get to talk to them is, you know, what do you think you've been struggling with lately? Like, has anything come across your desk that you couldn't write? Have you kind of given up any opportunities because you didn't have a market for it or, you know, you didn't know anything about it? That's a good starting spot, right? And again, I'll keep touching on this, write everything that walks in your door. Right. So that's usually what I'll do is ask, like, you know, has anything come across your desk that you had to refer away? Or you know stuff like that, and then we can kind of identify where they might be lacking in carriers or lacking in experience, stuff like that. um yeah, I would say that.
Okay. And then where do you see the cluster headed in the next 5 to 10 years, or just clusters in general?
So we're growing a lot. I do think, you know, there's becoming a growing need for us in the space as well, especially like, you know, the things we do best are giving agents access to a commercial program, right? And we kind of set up our commercial program so that you don't have to have any experience in commercial to get access to really good commercial markets,
Yeah.
right? So we work with, you know, 20 to 30 different commercial markets at my company. And I think the big thing is don't be intimidated by commercial insurance. And the way we have our program set up is very much that way, where you get to talk to an underwriter, you get access to, you know, a bunch of big carriers. But yeah, I would just say don't be intimidated by whatever walks in your door. Yeah.
And I would say, like, even the carriers that I use for the commercial side, a lot of times, like, I use specific ones because I've been writing through them. They'll be like, hey, if you want to position it as like I'm a commercial rep under your agency, and then they call and they close the deal for me. They'll like get all
Yeah.
the information, they'll go through the quote on the phone, X, Y, and Z. And then
Yeah.
after that, they have questions like, I can refer them to billing and so forth. So I think that's been important because in the beginning, I tried to do everything, and then you're bogged down with like service work all day.
Oh
So
yeah.
outsourcing, but make it also feel like they're still in-house and they're not having to call like, that 1-800 number.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing for a new agency too is, you know, I think a lot of people do this is when you're starting off a new agency, don't be afraid to call your friends and family, right? Like don't be afraid to call your mom and your uncle and your aunt and get all their business because that's usually a great foundation for you. But then also, you know, don't be afraid to diversify early either. I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket. And what a lot of people do is they might just go personal lines for a year or two and then branch off into commercial. I would say don't be afraid to kind of diversify day one. You know what I mean? Like if you know your aunt and uncle own a business, try to quote that. And then the really big thing for us is the agencies that do the best with us are not afraid to ask for referrals at all, right? And I think as long as you've done a great job as an agent, servicing the client and hearing them out and getting them great coverage, they're not going to be afraid to give you a referral, right? And that applies to most businesses. As long as you do a good job, I'm happy to refer you to my other friends or whatever.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to me that the agents that come to me never know about a cluster. They're like, how am I supposed to get these appointments? I'm calling. Like, why do you think that is though? Like a lot of agents have never heard of a cluster. I had never heard of a cluster until someone referred me to you guys and was like, hey, I think you should reach out to them. It'll be a good opportunity.
That's a good question. I think for a long time, clusters weren't really a thing, right? And we've been around for a long time. I think we've been around for 20 years now, right? So we've been in the industry. I think clusters have been growing and growing as of late and becoming a lot more important. But I think in a lot of people's minds, they're locked into one way to write insurance, right? As you call maybe X company and you want to get access to X company, right? And there's a lot of different ways to access different carriers now. So I think as the industry grows, we're going to see a lot more activity with us in different clusters and stuff like that. But I think it might just be more of an old school mindset on how to get access to different carriers.
No, absolutely. And then the last thing, is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers regarding clusters, getting into the industry, or just advice you see or you've seen that has helped other agents in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, don't be afraid to do your research. I think you can find a lot of this stuff online and kind of see what's good about different clusters and what's great about our program. I think, like I said earlier, we can work with big agencies, we can work with small agencies. I think as long as we get to have a conversation with you, there's absolutely value that we could bring to your agency, whether it be for one market or one program. No agency is perfect, and I don't think every agency has a perfect spread of markets, right? And there
Absolutely.
are big, agencies that have a ton of markets, right? But there's still some gaps there. And I think the big thing about clusters is we're here to help fill in the gaps for you, right? So wherever you don't have access to, we can help you fill in that gap, right? And a lot of times, the good thing about working with us is, if you were going to get a direct code with a big market X, right? They might want you to do 150,000, 200,000 in premium, right? As to where through different clusters, that number might be 40 or 50 grand, So you could get access to a big carrier without the big premium commitment. And then we also help fill in different gaps that you might have in the agency.
No, absolutely. And then the final thing I'll say is one thing I like about the cluster is I'm also able to get direct appointments. Like I've been able to get direct appointments through multiple carriers because of just the production that I've done. And then you start to build relationships like with the carriers directly, which is really nice. And then another
Yeah.
cool thing is how you guys have like express markets. So every carrier that I'm obtaining from you guys, I'm not necessarily having to do like the commission split. And
Yeah.
a lot of my business goes through there because let's say they're high risk drivers with DUIs and
Yeah.
things like that. So that's one thing that I do love about you guys. But I
Yeah.
appreciate you hanging out with us today for a few minutes and giving us some wisdom because I don't see anything online about like people talking about clusters. And I feel like a lot of people in the industry kind of keep that to themselves.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here to try to shed some light on this topic. So I appreciate you for stopping by today. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for our latest notification. Drop some comments and some questions below, and I'll try my best to get back to everyone. Again, my name is Kenny J, the insurance guru, and this is Kenny J TV.